Okay, so let's start then. And so I just would like to see what I have here. Okay, so these are my slides. So I have a few slides. So this one was created after the conference last year, JCON. So what happened is someone asked me after the show, after the session, are you working for the AirHacks company? Is it big? And there is no AirHacks company, it's just my website. So I created in the train last year, AirHacks Industries domain. And if you go there, you will just find links to my GitHub, Twitter, and there is nothing. It's just a link site. So industries sounds fun. So I still like Java. All my projects are Java only. Of course, in the front end now JavaScript, so pure JavaScript, or how to call it. No TypeScript like JavaScript and web components, but today is about backend. And actually, I think all my projects are serverless right now. So what I show you today, a little bit more professional, is what I do the entire time in multiple projects. And no one believes that it's possible. And after showing it to management how much money they can save, I'm in. So this is actually at the beginning say, okay, go away, it doesn't work. And after proof of concept, we get a project. So it's maybe an interesting trick. A little bit dangerous because it's direct impact on vacations and free time. So don't be too aggressive with it. Okay, here's the podcast. And one was interesting is with Kelsey Hightower, was a few episodes ago, and he is was the evangelist of Kubernetes and had also keynotes at QCon. And so after the chat, he said, okay, Kubernetes was never meant to be directly used by developers. It's more like a platform of building platforms. So okay, then I'm glad because, playing with YAML, no idea why it happened still. We had it, Who remembers Xdoclet? Xdoclet? Yeah, exactly. So we had Xdoclet back then, and now we got YAML after 20 years. I don't know whether it is better or not, but it's very similar experience, right? On Helm charts. So first Monday of the month, I'm answering questions live, and it is getting nicer and nicer. This is live stream, and I get currently more questions live than before. The switch flipped, I don't know, 1 year ago. But the coolest thing, so I'm proud of the invention. So this show runs for 8 years, so it means more than 100 episodes. And what I did at the episode 100, we are looking back 8 years and reviewing the questions asked back then, which is really fun because back then asked me, why are you still using Java and not this? And whatever this was, it died and Java is still around. So it was an interesting experience, right? Okay, this is also cool. I noticed that I already recorded 500 YouTube shorts about Java. What YouTube short is 1 minute or less with Java and hack from scratch something with Java SE, nothing with cloud. Just and what currently happens, I get lots of comments and I react and answering the comments with code basically. So lots of fun, and sometimes I'm in not that exciting meetings. So this is perfect thing, to prepare such a short. This is how it works. Okay, so Discord channel. Some workshops if you're interested, and you see one is about generative AI, so we are doing so enterprise-like, and persistence patterns where we think about running about costs basically. So do whatever is necessary to run efficiently in the cloud. This is basically it. So about me, I started with Java at the beginning with servers, and we had to do everything by ourselves, set up the server, operate the server. Then the server was took away from us by a department, and then since then I'm serverless because I was not able to maintain the server anymore. And since 3 years, I'm really serverless. When it started with pandemic, and we have no time to discuss the entire story, but there were some really important use cases for the cloud, and this is why we do public cloud, not because... So speaking of clouds, what is my opinion? If you can stay on-premise, do it. If you run your servers efficiently and cost-effectively, it's fine. What is the advantage of the cloud? Full automation. And this is what I would like to show you today. So, and what I don't understand, what people are doing, they're taking this non-automated stuff, what they do on-premise, go to the cloud, have no advantage. They have to pay on to pay P maybe as well, but pay wanted to say to pay 3 times more than on premise at least without any advantage. And they say clouds are expensive, and there is a blog post about repatriation because they would like to move back, right? So what's my opinion? They are cool servers. So this was one of my favorites, E10K, Starfire, Sun. So now you can buy it for 1,000 euros or 2,000 euros back then with millions. And now there is a new Sunfire on the horizon. I'm not related to, no relation to the company, but it's also a pretty cool server. It's called Oxide. I think even some Sun folks are running the company, so they can buy a nice machine. I never saw one, but I think there was one delivered last year. So if you're building your own on-prem data center, so I think this is the way to go, such a machine. Okay, Java and clouds. This is one slide I always showing. I started last year. And what this says is that Java is number 5 according to performance, energy efficiency, and Python is more or less, here is Python, Python, Ruby, and JavaScript are, Python is 35 times slower and takes more energy efficiency than Java. Why it's important? Because it's directly related to costs. If you do something on serverless, you pay for gigabyte seconds. The faster it is, the less you pay. So this is the first time in the history we can actually prove that we can save money with Java, which is pretty cool. So what Java is not doing great is here. What this means is memory consumption. You can fix that with Graal. We don't do it. Reason being is, I hope next slide is this one. So if you go to the cloud, this is where all my projects are starting. This is AWS, or there's also an Azure pricing calculator. And what it says is, I would like to have 2 gigs of RAM, and my call on average takes 100 milliseconds, 2 transactions per second the entire month, and I would like to pay, I will have to pay $15 without free tier. If free tier included, it would be 9 euros or dollars. So this is what I'm doing exactly. And so what it means with serverless Java, we can save actually 100 times actually the costs for enterprise project, for boring enterprise project, not for YouTube or TikTok, rather than you have something which runs, from 8 to 5, and at nights less so, we have vacations for that. Serverless is perfect. So it means that serverless is perfect for enterprise use cases, not for high performance, several thousand transactions per second use cases. Anyone agreed so far? Questions? So there should be interactive show, otherwise I can deliver it online. I don't have to travel to Cologne next time, right? There's no difference. Any questions? So everyone? So you saw this last year. Show me the code. This was the last slide, and today a little bit more code. Okay. I will have to find my so a little bit big. So hopefully it's the right, yes. So this is AirHacks repository. So I would like to push it live to AirHacks. So you can clone it afterwards, but 3 days after the show, I would like to delete the repository. Why? As you can see, there are 94 forks and 67 stars. So people are thinking this is a serious repository, and I got issues and pull requests, but this is just hello world. So I would like to delete it as soon as possible. Otherwise, I get open source contributions to my hello world work. Okay, so this basically it. You can ask me questions here. Can you build a Twitter well as demo build project? Maybe not now, because this is more or less hello world, and I would like to show the permission for you. This is what I would like to. This is what I never got because of the questions. But in principle, we could. But Twitter is actually not as simple as you may think with the timelines and whatever, right? It's not like get all and push. So if you have user personalized timelines, it's actually harder than you may think. Okay, so let's start. Quarkus. Oh, and I would like to use stock MicroProfile or Jakarta APIs. This is what I usually use in my project. As you saw me 20 years ago, it's exactly the same code with different package name. So old stuff repackaged. Also cool. There's a conference, JDD, I think, in Krakow. I was invited, I think 2013, and I delivered a talk, Java is 6, future is now. Java 6, and they invited me back last year. And what I did, I picked the old code, I found it, and ported to Java 21 without any effort. And what I could do now is I could actually pick the code and deploy it as Lambda today. So just saying. So this actually, the entire MicroProfile in Jakarta is Circus for most of my clients actually paid out. So I mean, there were no migration as promised. Except recently, you had to find and replace Java X dot with Jakarta. So this was the huge effort. So I think it works. So AirHacks is the group ID. I forgot that. Then JCE is JCON Europe. And the 2024 is the version. Hopefully this is the right thing. Oh, usually it doesn't do this. Of course, now it does. It searches for new versions. Let's see. And JCE. So it created a JCE project. This Quarkus is in CLI. You don't have to do it. You could use Maven or just clone it. But this Quarkus is actually nice at conferences to start it. This is what I never do in my projects. I clone my own repository on GitHub. I will also show you this in a second. But at conference, it's nice that you see no tricks. I use the Quarkus CLI and not my stuff. This is actually why I'm doing this right now. You can interrupt me with questions at any time, and I would expect at least one question. Otherwise, I won't stop talking and just, I will lock the doors until the question happens. So, JCE. So let's open the thing here. And what it is a stock project, Quarkus 3.2.5, with some dependencies, and some are actually not needed. So this is not needed, and tests are also unit tests are overestimated. So now let's delete this. So there will be, and then we have Java 17, I think, but usually whatever I do is Java 21. So this is in all my projects, and Java 22 is around, but it's not LTS. So most of my clients are not using Java 22. So a little bit old, but good enough, right? 21. So now I have it. So let's do the following. Maven, now standard, Quarkus dev. And this is a cold start, or not cold start, a cold build from Quarkus. And so it started, and take a look at the code. Oh, Docker, not needed. I think the last time I did Docker was before pandemic. So greetings resource, and you can see this is stock Jakarta and MicroProfile. By the way, I don't care. I don't distinguish in my project between Jakarta and MicroProfile. Is for me the same thing. So Quarkus supports both, and from which perspective, I don't care. So, 15 years ago, you will find here not Jakarta rather than Java X. So this was the big change. So to make it a little bit more realistic, I would like to have another class and call the class greeter. And I need my AR glasses, coding assistant. And now this should be application scoped, not now, later in Lambda case. So I plan to deploy this as serverless app. So this is actually my intention for today. And the greeter, I would like to configure it properly and use config property, which is from MicroProfile, config property, and go with name equals, let's call it prefix, is a good one, and default value is from JCON is enough. Okay, then do the prefix, and then one method, and the method is milliseconds, because I would like to return system current time milli. So not exactly a Twitter, but almost, right? So it is return this prefix plus system current time millis. So this should be enough. I need at least one dependency injection to show you that what I'm going to ship to the cloud is a proper MicroProfile application, not Hello World Pojo. So that there is a larger application, so we can better estimate, how fast it actually is. So, and now inject. So the cool story is nothing new here. So, and then this was the greeter. greeter, and use this here. This is the greeter.ms. Okay, now we have the greeter. So now, where is my Firefox? Here is it. No questions? Twitter. Okay, this will be hard. And just go here to localhost. This is my Quarkus. And we have here hello, hello. From JCON, you see it is working, but I'm not happy with the prefix. So let's fix this and go here and say from JCON and maybe semicolon, save it and run it again. It works. Now, so this is how I can test my application locally. There are no cloud involved, but what I would like to show you is the following. There's a target. Okay, so first, Java Maven package, Maven clean package, and Maven clean package creates here somewhere Quarkus app and then Quarkus run. So I can run now production mode Quarkus, Java -jar target, Quarkus app, and Quarkus run. So it started, fine. So this is my production Quarkus, okay? Questions? So this was the Quarkus show, and now it started with the cloud. Any questions? At least one? Everyone happy? Okay, then go ahead, right? Now, I would like to make a Lambda out of Quarkus. AWS Lambda, and you can do Azure function as well. For Azure function, I will have to use a Maven plugin, but all my projects currently is AWS, so for me it's easier to use AWS, is the only reason. So I would like to ship it as Lambda. For this, I would like to, or have to, add a dependency. So do this, and dependency. And the dependency is IO Quarkus as everything. And then here is something with HTTP. This is how I remember this. And Amazon, Lambda, Amazon, HTTP. Looks right. Now you have to listen, or now not to listen, to pay attention to the target folder now. You see this is Quarkus run, right? Now what I would like to do is I would like to package it again. Now watch this. Everything should disappear and reappears, and we got function.zip. Means now my enterprise application became a serverless application, and now I'm ready to ship it to Lambda. I can go to console, upload this thing, and I'm done. But open console and upload the thing and I'm done is a bad idea in enterprise projects because not repeatable, and forget it. So we never did it. Actually, in all my projects, access to console is forbidden. So we have to automate everything. Now the question is how we automate the deployment to the cloud, or how we automate the cloud. And the answer is, of course, we are Java conference. It's everything pure Java. Now you ask me, why are you using Java and not Terraform? Okay, Terraform is easy one. If you look up Terraform on Tofu, you will find what happens right now. But so if we have Java, we have Maven, we have jars, we can actually make the entire infrastructure shareable. This is the idea. So one developer implements a piece of infrastructure, and this could be reused across all departments. This is the basic idea. Okay, now we have a Lambda, but the cool story is I can still launch Quarkus in dev mode locally, debug it, and it will connect to the cloud if I like. So there was one error because of the Lambda, I think, but it still works. So if I go here and exactly and say, so you see it is working. So what it means is the most asked question is how we test the Lambda locally. Now you saw this. So there's no difference for developers. We launched the thing in development mode, and it starts. It doesn't even know that function zip exists. Agreed? So the first this question I had to answer over 100 times. I will ask about local stack, some mocking, whatever. I was like, I don't know what they're doing. We are just launching Quarkus and we are done. Very good. How do you handle dependencies to DynamoDB, for example? No. The cool story is every developer gets an own AWS account. This is dev. And if you launch Quarkus locally, it can still connect to the cloud. You only need your own DynamoDB or S3 or SNS or SQS. And the cool story is because it's serverless, it doesn't cost you anything. So the huge advantage of serverless is every developer gets a production-like environment. Okay. Yeah.
How exactly do we handle this in, for example, CDK code, like the different environments?
This is so-called AWS account agnostic. So I will show in a second. So the account is not mentioned. And in some projects where we would like to be sure to deploy to the proper account, we set it in environment, but usually not. For this one, nothing to do. This is the cool part.
You mentioned that there is also the version for Azure. Is this also available as extension?
Not extension, it is an Azure plugin, officially from Microsoft. If you search for function Azure plugin, there's a plugin that will create, it's very similar, it will create a zip and upload automatically. No idea, it was never in a Google project, so I cannot tell you this. But Azure and AWS is very, very similar. So what it means is our Quarkus code is absolutely portable between clouds. On AWS, I use pure Java. On Azure, I use Bicep for deployment. Cool, thank you. So let's do the infrastructure. So for the infrastructure part, I prepared actually something. And this is the this project, AWS function URL CDK only. This is a small builder around CDK, which I use actually only on conferences. So what I do in projects is another thing, but this comes already with everything, and this is too much for a conference, is this. Quarkus Lambda CDK plane. If you clone this, you get Quarkus with CDK. There's nothing else to do. So I will run, build, and deploy, and it is done. And what I do here is the worst possible way. So I started with usual Quarkus and now port it to AWS because this conference talk should be less magic than in my projects. Okay? Agreed? So what we have in target, function.zip. What we don't have, no clouds. I only have credentials in my account, but nothing happened so far. Okay, this function URL and what I have here JCE. I created setup function URL CDK only AWS project. This is the name. This is a shell script which basically clones the repository. And I call it CDK Cloud Development Kit and should open an IDE. In here it is. So okay, then walk through. So what it is a standard Maven project with dependency to AWS. This is the recent version. And software constructs, this is two required dependencies, and anything else is absolutely optional. Because this project comes from me, we are already using Java 21. Okay? And what CDK is, it is based on, generates behind the scenes CloudFormation, but it's fully supported by AWS. It means we get patches from AWS, no third-party dependencies. So no dependencies is still a thing, right? So it's always a good idea. You got me? And this is, how to call it, declarative. So I can run it multiple times, and if there are no changes, nothing happens. There's not SDK, it is CDK, right? So it works similar to Kubernetes, I would say, with the YAML. This is YAML without YAML with Java, which is a little bit more easier for me. Questions? No questions. Or are questions? No. I forgot to look up the chat, but at the end of the show, I will take a look at this. So what happened? Stack builder is from I created a thing, and actually the last commit is 10 minutes before, because I wanted to have this inlined. So so if it doesn't work, I have to revert it. So I have no time to to test. But this is hello lambda is the stack name, and I would like to call it JCE or JCON serverless. This is name of the lambda, and now let's call it. You wanted to have Twitter, so at least something, yeah. Twitter. Twitter, we can use it. X would be forbidden, but Twitter is okay. So now Lambda projects, target and function. So what I have to specify here is the folder, and this was JCE. And this is the place where I search for function.zip. You can say, okay, but what's behind the scenes? So behind the scenes, the stack builder is just a builder. It's just convenience, a Java builder pattern. What you see here already, Quarkus is actually the only magic here. The Quarkus stream handler is registered as Lambda, and this is the reason why I can have as many endpoints as like. So in my project, we have huge Lambdas, 500,000 Java classes with hundreds of endpoints, and no one cares. Why not? Because Quarkus optimizes the bytecode, And what it means is I can launch it right now. You will see the cold start will be 2 or 3 seconds the very first time, then faster without snap start. What snap start is crack, coordinate, restore a checkpoint. The first time I remembered the acronym. So activated, it will be half the performance. And why Quarkus or Micronaut are good for this? Because what they are doing, they are deploying at build time. So what it means is there is no reflection, no class loading at runtime. And this is why the startup time is so fast. If you would try to achieve the same with JavaScript or Python, a little bit harder, because lots of scripts take longer to start, and the Java doesn't care. What you should avoid are external dependencies. If you know function zip is 50 megs, problematic. If it's your code, no impact on performance. Questions? Everyone agreed?
Do you always create a function URL or you use API gateway?
Depends. Function URL, if your DNS name doesn't matter, this is almost the cheapest one. If SSL certificates matter a lot, CloudFront is the best option. If you have to integrate in your enterprise network, then REST API gateway is the way to go because you get a private integration. HTTP API gateway is for typical enterprise applications where the traffic is not as high. If the traffic is high, load balancer, application load balancer is the cheapest solution with fixed costs. Long answer. So in clouds, cost-driven architectures, it always depends on money. So you will never get there's no always, it really depends on performance because whatever I tell you right now is cost-driven. If costs are not an option, we would buy the largest possible EC2 machine and run Quarkus without the entire circus. The entire serverless thing is operations. There's nothing to operate. Amazon patches for us the Corretto. Azure patches for us the OpenJDK from Microsoft. There's nothing to do. And everything else are cost, right? So on-premise, I would never do this. On-premise, I will run my application server as Quarkus in Docker and I will be done. So serverless on-premise doesn't make any sense, except you have huge data center with over-provisioned data center and lots of resources. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Pretty cool. Now, so what I hopefully did, this. Now I would like to explain you what happened behind the scenes. So everything comes here from CDK, and there's a build. The build invokes function URL stack. This was implemented by me. It extends stack, which is from Amazon. And the Quarkus Lambda construct was also created by me. And if you would like just to make it work at home, you only need 5 lines of code. This already assumes you would like to do more, like permissions and RAM or whatever configuration. If you really would like just to deploy a Quarkus app, I'll show you the code. The code is exactly this, what you need to. What I say, I would like to have Java 21, the recent edition, whatever AWS we are doing. I would like to run on ARM64 because it's cheaper and faster and more energy efficient. And this is where the function zip comes from. Okay, in real-world project, I never do this. We are deploying from a version S3 bucket. So we have a CI/CD pipeline which versions the function.zip and pushes to S3 bucket. And with the particular version we deploy. For conferences, good enough. So this is, we don't use from asset rather than from bucket. Okay, so handler memory size is 2 gigs. Why 2 gigs? Because it's the cheapest solution. Java runs on 1 CPU the fastest. And if you see project which run with 128 megs of RAM, so Quarkus doesn't care, but 128 megs of RAM means you get 1/11 of the CPU, which is really, really slow. So therefore, we always start with 1 gig, runs the fastest, 2 transactions per second the entire month. Costs how much? This was the first slide. Who knows? Yeah, between 10 and 15 euros. So we don't care about that, right? So cool. And timeout in seconds is like 10 seconds is a standard. And this basically, everything else a little bit more syntactic sugar so that I can provide additional configuration, for instance, right? So for instance, what I would like to do is, for instance, I would like to say configuration, and I can pass a map with of, and what was it, prefix, and next year we will have serverless con, right? So something like this, and the map has to be imported, and this basically it. So now I I'm writing to the Lambda environment. Okay, now let's see whether it works. So this is my workspace, and go to CDK, and there is a script build and deploy don't ask. And what it is, Maven clean package and CDK deploy, and don't ask means this, because usually if I work with it, large projects with VPCs take long time with all the routers to deploy. Serverless is more or less quick. Okay, now run it. Build and deploy, don't ask. And hopefully I have the credentials. If not, I will have to reacquire. This is Node.js tooling behind the scenes. And okay. Let's see. Maybe this was the change I did. If not, I will revert it. Okay, what I did before the show was this was wait a sec, need credentials. This is now the first trick, right? I obtained the credentials before the show, but okay. Expired token. I was still to. Yeah. Yeah, this was on purpose. This is my HDMI cable. No, everything is fine. I only need the credentials, and they are only valid for 2 hours, but it's enough time to hack me, right? So bear with me. I actually prepared before the show. I obtained the credentials, but okay, wait a sec. This is live show. Will show you in a second what I did, because there's one related question how I work with it in projects. Pretty cool. This works now, and I have just cleared the screen. Cool. Okay. So what I did, this was the question how I'm working with it. So these were the credentials, and this is a multi-account strategy. You see here, there's for instance a client, AHEX Live, AHEX News, AHEX TV. In regular projects, I would have within the organization, every developer would get an account. And what I did right now, I opened that and copied the credentials. The problem is I did it before the show, but they're expired. There's 1 hour, and this was just took too long. Okay, so this is real world, and I got the error credential expired. So test it again. This is build and deploy, don't ask, and hopefully it works now. Okay, now it is working. And this is also the real world to work. The cool story is if someone will steal the credential from me, it is only valid for 1 hour, 2 hours. So we are not using users in our projects. There are no credentials hard-coded. Okay, so what it creates whatever necessary to deploy the Quarkus to the cloud. In this particular case with function URL, HTTP API gateway will be a little bit slower, but a function URL is the cheapest one. So if you, exactly. And what function URL is, you get a generated URI, which you can call. This is like a generic API gateway, okay? Right now, yes. You can have IAM permissions for this. And in HTTP API gateway, you can have an API key and whatever. For function is either open or IAM permissions, for instance. And what you can do with HTTP API gateway, you can integrate with Cognito and OIDC, or application load balancer can do the same. Which means we have now the URI, curl URI, and this is the coldest start you can get. This is the very first start. T is an macro from me, so it will measure the performance. And yeah, you see 3.3 seconds from outside to the cloud and back. Now subsequent call are 0.09 second, and the function remains warm for 3 minutes, so roughly. What you can do, a cheap trick, you can have a cron expression which pings the lambda every minute, so it's never cold and it's still below the free tier. So and let's see whether it works, and let's see. Let's pick it here. If I call it, you see serverless con. It even used the configuration which I passed, right? So interestingly, I can still run the thing. Hopefully, I don't know whether. Wait a sec. JCE, Maven, Quarkus, Dev. I don't know whether it still runs. So I can start it here. Kill Java. I can start it here, and it should run. I can, yeah, it runs. This was the, so, and if I go here, curl localhost 8080/hello from JCON, because the configuration, this is the default, and the configuration was overridden only in the cloud. Questions? So I mean, I would say pretty cool. What I really like about that is, if you go here, this is just Maven. What we actually do in projects, we create a jar out of the infrastructure, and in the pipeline we make it executable jar, and in the pipeline we say Java -jar, and it provisions everything with one liner in the pipeline. And because it is a Maven dependency, you can push it to Nexus, to your Maven repository, and make it shareable across your team. Okay? So infrastructure as code with Java. Absolutely without YAML. Yes? Couple of seconds could maybe happen. So 2-3 seconds are normal for typical Java applications. If you have lots of external dependencies, it depends on the dependencies, right? This is exactly the same. If you have Quarkus outside the cloud and you pack it full with dependency, it will also start maybe in 10 seconds or whatever. It really depends on the dependencies. Okay. Was it Quarkus? Okay, because what you can do, you can buy for provision concurrency for $14 a month per function, a function which is always warm. If you have on Azure the premium SKU, you also get Azure function which is always on. So it really depends. But in enterprise projects, so my argumentation is we have a cold start of 3 seconds, or we pay at least €1,000 per Kubernetes cluster. And we will need, if we would really like to do it right, one for dev, int, and prod. And what we get here, we get production environment per developer for free. What we always wanted to have. Every developer gets own environment. So it's all about the costs. I'm not, and this argumentation, it was always good enough, and with the cron job is actually acceptable. And what you should try is Snap Start. It's a new one, only available on Intel. What it means is during deployment time, it copies the JVM to 3 availability centers or to all availability zones, the center zones, and then freezes it and pushes it, and then at the next start, it just loads from memory. Yeah? But let's see. So we have here whether I'm able to connect. So we have here, oh, no, wait a sec. just open this here once again. I need the credentials, that's the problem. So AWS, lucky? Not lucky. What I wanted to show you is okay, later. What it actually costs from outside was 3 seconds. If we go to the logs, you will see 200 milliseconds maybe. So you will actually pay for 200 milliseconds, not 3 seconds that the code starts. So cost-wise, it is way cheaper than from outside. Okay. Now, what I promise you, this is like Hello World. But what if we would like to access an S3 bucket, let's say, with permissions? So this is always painful, right? Dealing with permissions, roles, and so forth. And I think this is where Java and infrastructure as code really shine. So what I would like to do right now is to go here to my to this project here, and this is the function URL builder where I'm starting the stack. This is the stack. What happens here is the following. You see here function URL expose function, and the function is created here, right? Function is created here, and I get the function back. So what I would like to do is to actually create a bucket. So bucket, create, but do it the right way. The problem with bucket is what? The problem with bucket is, of course, the name has to be worldwide unique, right? Which is painful. So I can use JCON only once. So what I would like to do instead is don't give a name to the bucket, so it'll be automatically generated, but now the Lambda has to know what the name of the bucket is, right? So if it is automatically generated and unique, how to tell the Lambda what the bucket name is, okay? So let's try to solve this. So return bucket dot builder dot create. And why I'm using bucket? Because bucket is the oldest service, bucket and cloud service ever, of all clouds, I think. And let's call it JCON IMA. It's bucket. So build, and then dot, let's say public read access is false. So I'm disabling the access, and there is no name. Okay, what I have here, no one will know what it is. So what I would like to do is to say here this dot create. What I get back is the bucket, var bucket. Okay, so the bucket is here. Now watch this. So we have no time. So what I would like to speed a little bit up, I actually wanted to deploy and show you the error. But instead, I can now say bucket dot grant, read, grant, delete, or read write, and say this only this Lambda function is allowed to talk to this bucket. Done. If you would take a look at the policy statement, this is absolutely hard-coded, so it's not like star, it is hard to wire to this bucket. So it is really painful to achieve the same, let's say, with Terraform and write, the policies by yourself in JSON. So I have this, but what I also would like to do is, I would like to, where's the bucket? Here's the bucket, to ask the bucket so here's the bucket to ask the bucket for the name, bucket get name, and this is the bucket name which is generated. I don't know it actually. And then I can say Quarkus lambda, function Quarkus lambda dot add to configuration, and I can say bucket name and bucket name. And I can fetch the bucket name with stock MicroProfile config later. So, and now we are talking, imagine we get DynamoDB, SQS, SNS. I can actually use whatever I like here and wire all the permissions without any click in the console. If I get security review, everything's my code. If I do a mistake, I deploy just once again, and this mistake is actually resolved. Questions? How much time do I have? There are lots of questions there. Oh, I have to find my browser now. Now comes the challenging stuff. Okay. What is application scope doing? Okay, I use application scope because this is the only thing which makes sense in Lambda. Every call is a singleton call, and therefore request scope doesn't make any sense. So we get two instances in one call. So the only difference to Quarkus locally is that in the cloud, we get one transaction per process. 3 processes, 3 transactions. On Quarkus locally, 1 transaction, 1 thread, 1 JVM, right? For every parallel call in the cloud, we get 1 Lambda instance. 1,000 calls, 1,000 JVMs, 1,000 CPUs, 2,000 gigs of RAM. Okay? Next one. How would I set up and deploy with AWS? This is actually what hopefully I shown. So what you can do, the easiest, clone the repository and you are set. Interesting story, the AirHacks workshop, and 75 years old lawyer from US joined my workshops. I actually did a podcast with him, so you can listen. And he decided to be a software shop after his lawyer career and started as a startup. And he managed with this template to deploy the applications. So as easy. So there's actually no problem, even if you are not skilled Java developer, to use that and deploy to the cloud. For GCP there is, but I never used that. Is Quarkus your preferred only choice? No, a Micronaut is also great. I think Quarkus is a little bit faster than Micronaut, and Quarkus has better MicroProfile support. This is why it's my preferred choice, because it does lots of Java-E applications which we can actually one-to-one port to serverless with Quarkus. With Micronauts, there will be some doing involved, right? What is exactly Quarkus? Quarkus is a thing which optimizes at build time. It means it removes reflection, removes unused code, and removes class loading. But Quarkus is actually built on JBoss or Whitefly, but it's highly optimized regarding startup performance. So MicroProfile application on Quarkus is smaller than empty Tomcat. Okay? So, do you need a cron job should be running as an external always available service? No, because in the cloud we have EventBridge. EventBridge is always available, and EventBridge can directly ping the Lambda and you are done. It will cost you anything. EventBridge Scheduler, this is the name. So you don't, cron job was just, the proper name is EventBridge. Would you good to have an analyzer and want to check the app over time to select the GC? Cool you say this. We are disabling the GC in most applications because if the Lambda runs for hour, and even if it gets killed because of out-of-memory error, the next Lambda starts completely fresh, right? So we are actually deactivating garbage collection if you think about this. There's no garbage collection needed. Okay? Cool. Everything is simpler. Is it possible to make a Quarkus application out of Vardin application, like by adding dependencies in POM XML? It would be possible, but I don't know why. Because what you would like to achieve? Because if this will serve you CSS and the entire backend, you will pay per CSS file, right? But if this is a Vardin as a remote protocol, it would work. So everything works, right? But don't use Lambda as an HTTP server. What's way better is an S3 bucket. You can use S3 bucket as a free HTTP solution. So in Kubernetes to serverless migration projects, we are eliminating all Nginx's and Apache some clients still have with S3 bucket. You put everything to S3 bucket and you are done without any additional costs. Pretty cool. Where are we? How much time do I have? Time is over. Oh, unfortunately. So the bucket is not deployed. But what I plan to do maybe today or tomorrow to record a screencast with complete S3 bucket thing. So you will see this. So this is actually a few steps left. The most important thing is maybe if we switch to, wait a sec, to my Lambda. What is missing here conceptually is the following. If I'm in the greeter, so what I will need to do is to do the following. String bucket name and config property. This was name was bucket name, and default value was unconfigured. So, and now we have it. And what's missing is one dependency. And this is like dependency. And this is software, I think. Amazon, this one. And this is S3. On version, let's see, something with 2, I hope. Yes, looks good. And with that, I can actually get the bucket. And you ask me why application scoped. And the because what I like to do is S3 client is client equals S3 client.create without any configuration. And application scope means a singleton, so the client is cached, which is a good thing. And now this is completely set up to access the S3 bucket. The permission is already created in CDK. What's missing is, I think it's called get object request and put object request, and we could write to S3 bucket in a serverless application. And if you will call it more than 1 million times a month, you will pay 10 euros. Try it with Docker or EC2. Okay? So what I think is for enterprise applications, serverless first is the only reasonable approach. Why that? Nothing to operate, all the logs, everything is maintained by the cloud. You fully focus on business logic, not the infrastructure. The dependency to the cloud is there, infrastructure, but my code looks like 20 years old code. I get ported to Asia at any time. Of course, the infrastructure and the settings are different on Asia. So I'm always depending on the infrastructure, but the business code is the same. Okay. Final questions? I have some stickers if you like. Anytime. I will be around here for a few minutes, then I have to work because I spend all my time right now, 120% of my time in such projects. So, yeah. Thank you a lot and see you next year with even less slides and hopefully more code, so we can achieve more because you know already the basics. So I can talk faster and code faster, right? So thank you and see you next year.